Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Optimal Experience. Today I wanted to discuss whether or not the Ryzen 9 3950X bottlenecks the RX 9070 XT, and whether upgrading the CPU is even necessary for a good experience. This could help you decide what to do if you are on the fence about upgrading your GPU while keeping your older CPU. To understand the gap, we need to look at what we are comparing. First, my current daily driver, the Ryzen 9 3950X. This was the absolute king of the hill in 2019, but it's built on the Zen 2 architecture with 16 cores and 32 threads. It boosts up to 4.7 GHz and carries a 64 MB L3 cache. On paper, it's still a workstation monster. But then we have the modern gaming champions. The Ryzen 7 7800X3D, released in 2023, it drops down to 8 cores and 16 threads on the newer Zen 4 architecture. The boost clock hits 5 GHz and the magic is the cache. It has a massive 96 MB L3 cache thanks to the 3D V-cache technology, which is like rocket fuel for gaming FPS. And finally, the current heavyweight, the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, launched in late 2024. This uses the latest Zen 5 architecture. It keeps the same 8-core count and 96 MB of L3 cache, but it pushes the boost clock even higher to 5.2 GHz and completely changes the physical design to keep the chip cooler. So we have a classic 16-core workhorse versus the ultra-fast cache-heavy specialists of today. The 9800X3D is theoretically up to 50% faster in 1080p gaming than my Ryzen 9 3950X. But does that actually matter when you're gaming at 4K with an RX 9070 XT, or is that extra speed just wasted potential? That is exactly what we are going to find out. To figure out what performance we actually get and whether we have a significant bottleneck, we ran 3 separate benchmark runs in Cyberpunk 2077. We tested at 1080p low, 1440p high, and 4K ultra. For all tests, we are using the FSR4 native AA mode with frame generation turned off to get raw performance numbers. Starting at 1080p low, the results are interesting. We get an average of 141 FPS with a maximum of 170 and a minimum of 115. On the surface, that sounds great. Over 140 FPS is silky smooth. But look closer at the utilization. Our GPU is sitting only between 70 and 82% usage. Meanwhile, the CPU is hovering around 38 to 45%. This is the smoking gun of a bottleneck. The RX 9070 XT is bored. It wants to push 200 FPS, but the Ryzen 9 3950X simply can't prepare the frames fast enough to keep it fed. Next up, we bump the resolution to 1440p high. Naturally, because we are asking the graphics card to do more work, the raw frame rate comes down a bit. We see an average of 119 FPS, a maximum of 140, and a minimum of 102. But here's the most important number on the screen, 99% GPU utilization. At 1080p, the card was waiting on the CPU, but at 1440p, the RX 9070 XT is fully saturated. It is running as fast as it physically can. The CPU usage is still sitting in that same 36 to 46% range, but the dynamic is completely flipped. Since the GPU is now the limiting factor, a faster CPU like the 9800X3D would give us virtually zero extra frames here. We have effectively eliminated the bottleneck just by playing at a realistic resolution. Finally, we push the system to the absolute limit, 4K Ultra settings. Here, the sheer weight of rendering 8 million pixels per frame hits hard. We see an average of 35 FPS with a maximum of 45 and a minimum of 30. It is playable for a slow-paced RPG, but definitely heavy. But look at the CPU utilization now. It has dropped all the way down to 16 to 31%. The roles have completely reversed. My old Ryzen 9 3950X is practically asleep. It is sitting there waiting for the massive RX 9070 XT to finish drawing every single frame. This is the mic drop moment. At 4K, the CPU matters less than ever. If I upgraded to a 9800X 3D right now, I would get exactly the same 35 FPS, because the bottleneck is 100% on the GPU. So did I make a mistake in keeping the CPU? The data says no. But frame rates only tell half the story. This is where the 16-core luxury actually kicks in. Watch this. I'm running Cyberpunk, recording in OBS, and have Chrome open with a dozen tabs. I just alt-tabbed out of a massive AAA title, and the system didn't even blink. No stutter, no freezing while the PC thinks about it. It just goes. This is a hidden benefit of having 32 threads. The game gets the cores it needs, and Linux gets the rest. If I were on an 8-core CPU, the operating system, OBS, and the game would all be fighting for the same resources, which causes those little micro stutters when you multitask. But here, it's complete isolation. I might have traded away 10% of my peak gaming FPS compared to a new CPU, but in exchange I got a computer that never feels slow, no matter how much I throw at it. So, did I make a mistake by pairing a 2019 CPU with a modern GPU? If you look at the 1080p charts, maybe. I left some frames on the table. But if you look at the experience, absolutely not. At 1440p and 4K, which is exactly where you should want to be playing with an RX 9070 XT, the bottleneck effectively vanished. The game was smooth, the GPU was maxed out, and my old 16-core CPU was actually cruising. And remember, all of these results were native. We didn't even turn on frame generation. If I had enabled FSR 4 frame gen, that 119 FPS at 1440p would likely jump to over 200, making the difference between CPUs even harder to notice with the human eye. The industry loves to tell us that we need to upgrade everything every year, but the truth is optimal doesn't always mean the highest number on a graph. Sometimes optimal means having a PC that is paid off, handles everything you throw at it, and still delivers a killer gaming experience. If you have a 9800X 3D, enjoy that speed, it's an incredible chip. But if you are still rocking a 3950X or a 5800X, don't let the charts scare you. You are doing just fine. Thank you for watching. I'm Ryan. This is the Optimal Experience, and I'll see you on the next one.